Wait, something doesn't seem right here. Oh no. Hello there. Welcome back to the channel. The last time you guys saw my videos, they were,
has turned into one large social experiment.
but I have a new mic and I've decided to put way more effort into these videos than before. Because I can. Don't ever question me. So I decided to play Subnautica Below Zero because of a few reasons. 1. I put out a poll for it and you guys chose in a 2-to-1 ratio for Below Zero. 2. I made a previous video on Subnautica, the original game, and it's still up to watch, but no! Its audio is bad and it should feel bad. And 3, because I wanted to. So the title of this video says it's a ruined game, but a better word would probably be a smudge on the reputation of Unknown Worlds. I guess you could say it's tarnished?
Please clap.
I'll be here always. Below Zero in isolation, without comparing it to the previous game, it's still a good game. There's a reason it has a high approval rating of 90%. The previous formula is still here, the scanner, the diverse biomes, and the unique-ish creatures for the game. So why do people generally believe the game is bad? Well, a few reasons. A few reasons I'll go over. I'll break it down into 3 major sections just like my first video. First, we'll talk about the production of the game. Secondly, we'll talk about the scale of the game. And finally, to avoid major spoilers until the end, we'll talk about the story of the game. Any game requires a development and production stage before it can even be considered to a wider audience. For comparison, I'll use the Halo series. I know it may be weird, but hear me out. Halo Combat Evolved was conceptualized and began development in 1997. Being released in 2001. This is a 4-year development stage for a level-based shooter, one that revolutionized the genre for its time. Subnautica was announced and put into alpha testing as early as 2013, eventually being released January of 2018. This is a 5 years of development and producing. Halo 2 was released in 2004, 3 years after its predecessor, and Subnautica Below Zero was released 2021. Also 3 years after the original.
This is a skewed system, Al. Bungie is a huge company with hundreds of workers.
Can I just... come here. I was getting to that. While Bungie today is a huge department, today with dozens of workers regularly working on games like Destiny 2, back then when they were making Halo CE, they were considerably smaller. Different sources have given me different numbers, one saying as small as 5 to 6, while others say as many as 12 members during the creation of Halo CE. However, during the creation of Halo 2, they had anywhere between 60 to 70 employees thanks to the merging with Microsoft. While it's been reported that the creation of Halo 2 was a mess, this led to extra projects being scrapped than necessary. This means that even with excess, they had to cut unnecessary projects to make Halo 2. Comparatively, Subnautica Below Zero had 18 workers on it, basically all of Unknown Worlds staff at the time. So you have 2 different games, with the same amount of time to be made by 2 departments that have experience making their respective game, and where Halo 2 had at least 5 times more staff than Halo 1. For Subnautica Below Zero, they didn't have nearly the manpower. And while Halo is a level-based FPS shooter, Subnautica is an open-world game, requiring more assets, more space, and more diversity in a single large area. So if Halo needed 70 people in 2004 to make a proper FPS, how could Unknown World possibly keep up with that type of time schedule with 4 times less people? The answer is simple. Reusing assets. Production value of a game is more important than developing it. It's rigging models, building backgrounds and levels, stabilizing assets so they don't do this. Ew. With that said, Subnautica is no exception to this. Even Subnautica is subject to its own glitches. No game is perfect. With that said, time is also needed to refine the assets so they come out sounding good. Imagine if grunts in Halo sounded like elites, and the elites sounded like grunts.
Bleed! Who's the winner? Oh, yeah, that's right, it's us!
Hilarious, but also immersion breaking. With that said, immersion is more important to Subnautica than most other games because part of the fun is playing Subnautica is being afraid, fearful of leaving your starting waters for deeper, more valuable resources. And Below Zero does have these elements. However, due to the 3-year time limit, Below Zero was bound to be smaller than its predecessor. Subnautica's map is 3,500 meters squared, whilst Below Zero is 2,000 meters squared. In other words, here's a rock thrown 100 meters in Subnautica. Now here's a rock thrown 100 meters in Below Zero. As you can see, it went farther. Because of the map being nearly halved, Unknown Worlds made some interesting decisions. The Seamoth was just too fast for the map. Remove it and replace it with the Sea Truck. I hate to say I dislike the Sea Truck because I really liked its concept. However, the problem with it is it's nearly useless. The more compartments you add onto the Sea Truck, the slower it becomes until it barely even moves. By the way, this also replaces the Cyclops because it also acts as a mobile base. That being said, I can see the benefits of a Sea Truck. Having a mobile base is nice to bring around. You know what would have done this? And faster? A Cyclops. However, that also went too fast. Remove it. The prawn suit? Everyone loves the prawn suit. We can't remove it. But it's faster than the Seamoth and Sea Truck combined with the grapple attachment. I got it. We'll make it where just pressing W will drain the fuel charge on the prawn suit, so it will be impossible to keep up the same kind of momentum as in the first game. Sir, you deserve a raise. This downsizing on speed makes Subnautica Below Zero feel dreadfully slow compared to the original. And it's weird too because even the crafting system was made simpler. So you'd think that this simplicity and reduction would help improve the speed of the game, right? Not really. Yes, the crafting items have been altered and in some cases reduced by half to make crafting easier, but that doesn't change that just collecting resources feels more tedious than it did in the first game, just from the speed nerf implicated. They chose to make everything feel
inefficient.
They chose to make everything feel
Truly inefficient.
Speaking of inefficiencies. I'm sure I don't need to say that from here on will involve spoilers to the storyline of Below Zero. I won't go into explicit detail because I don't want this video to be an hour long, but I'll break it down. You play as Robin Ayu, a xeno worker and xenologist. Whatever a xeno worker is. Anyways, Robin willingly goes to planet 4546b in search of information on the death of her sister Samantha. Funny enough, I didn't read the log from Alterra saying how Samantha died, so I was under the impression we were going to save our sister. I know, I'm an idiot. Anyways, we use the cover of a meteor shower to enter undetected from Alterra's presence. I'm personally not quite sure why stealth ops were needed, considering all Alterra bases we find are either destroyed, sabotaged, or in disrepair. Maybe there's a ship in orbit, but if that's the case, why would this ship not investigate the multiple research facilities that have gone radio silent? Anyways, the landing goes without a hitch, and Robin lands onto the polar ice caps of the planet, making her way to the waters where a temp base was deployed. Good thing the meteor didn't destroy that. So with a fabricator in my reach, we had all we needed to survive. I go out and search for some resources, slowly. Eventually I get what I need for a battery, then a scanner, a base, a slow glide, and soon enough I had this. It's alright. Nothing like my Subnautica base. If you want to see that video, leave a like in the comments saying you want to see a Subnautica base tour. But I digress. With this base, I'm able to get around easier and try to explore this world a bit better. And as we explore, we'll come across multiple abandoned bases from Alterra, each one holding dialogue from characters and their interactions, including my favorite character in the whole franchise, Fred.
Ah, jeez. These sea monkeys are gonna get me in trouble. They're lucky they're kinda cute. Raccoons of the sea, those ones. It's just like when we were kids and we used to play Underwater City. I'm safe in my sea truck. Safe and very, very brave. Please tell Dad for me. What?
I love this guy. I feel so bad for him. He's just a cog in the Alterra machine trying to make a living on an alien world. Kinda reminds me of Riley in a way. I wish we played as him instead, personally. Imagine Fred trying to deal with Alan. Just another one of the things he had to put up with on this planet. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Now, talk about my least favorite character in the game, and why I partly hate it. Alan. I'm sure some of you out there will say Robin is your least favorite character, but I think part of the dislike for her is because of Alan. Alan is an architect, and if you don't know or haven't played the game, why are you watching this, you useless old ingrate? Ah! The architects are the ancient advanced species on Subnautica. You know, your old ones, your forerunners, your humans. They're them. However, they have chosen to become cyborgs. A biological mix of, I think, 27 different species? I forget. I don't really care. The reason I hate Alan is because he's a freaking robot. And I don't mean that in a literal sense, I mean he acts like a robot despite supposedly being a former being of biological organics. Despite being a leader in research and development for the architects, he explains and describes everything in a bland, boring, but very efficient manner.
Our searches have been useful, but ultimately I have no definitive evidence as to the fate of my people. I suppose the human reaction would be to maintain hope, a survival instinct. Having no choice, I shall emulate you. It seems rather inefficient. The only other alternative is to perish alone. The worst inefficiency by far. Inefficient. Efficiency aside, noble, but again, truly inefficient.
You call humanity inefficient one more time, I will swim us both into the mouth of a Leviathan.
He is one of the most one-dimensional characters I've ever seen, and I've seen Scooby-Doo. Alan is more bland than Fred from Scooby-Doo, and I mean OG Scooby-Doo where he was just meant to be the token Boy Scout. Every interaction Robin has with Alan just leaves me exhausted and not wanting to continue the story itself, frankly. Because the story was boring, the characters were boring. Frankly, the most enjoyment I got from the lore of this game is listening to the dialogue between the Alterra researchers. Speaking of, the researchers have a diverse team of varying personalities. You got the guy who takes all the shit at work, you have the cheery goody-good who hates confrontation, you have the shady guy, you have the social justice warrior, you have the asshole boss who pretends to be your friend. You got it all, really. And because of that, it's the most dynamic storytelling that's in the game. That being said, it's still not to the same caliber of enjoyment as when I read through the Degazi logs and how much of a badass Marguerite was.
Margaret, Maida has boarded the habitat.
What are you so happy about, Maida?
Say, kid, I brought you something.
Is that a Leviathan outside?
Towed it home on the back of the sub.
You killed that thing?
It's still breathing. I was about to finish the job, but I can stay and chat if you'd like. No? Then make yourself useful and pass me that hardened blade.
But compared to the efficiency of Alan and Robin, I'll take anything. I'm sure the reason a lot of people dislike the researcher's story is because of Samantha, but Personally, they just came off as preachy, which is annoying at times, but she really didn't bother me. You know who did bother me? Manuel.
Fred, great to see you. Come on in. You don't mind if I record this, do you?
Am I in trouble?
No. You know me. Just a fanatic for details. And my memory's not what it used to be.
I know what that's like.
Yes. Is that why you've been running so many personal errands for your colleagues? We asked you to limit them.
So I am in trouble.
That's not how I want you to look at it. Here's what I see. You're a team player. You want to get the job done.
I think I have a pretty good record there.
You want people to like you.
Has anyone complained?
Fred, the trouble is, not everyone is as reliable as you are. Sometimes people need help being where they need to be and concentrating on their work.
All the trips were work-related.
It appears you transported tech for Lil, rather far out from her base.
Well, it needed to go deep, and she needed a sea truck.
Her work is currently on surface installations. She shouldn't be anywhere near the water. No more favors to friends, agreed?
Yes, sir.
I keep telling you. Call me Manu.
This fucking asshole, whenever I heard his pretend cheery demeanor, really rubbed me the wrong way. And if that was genuine happiness from him, he's got problems.
David, my management style appears to be uniquely well suited to isolated planets. But I wonder if you feel it too. As great as we are together, we're almost better apart. Once this mission is over, I'll come home for a few good months. And then, what do you think if we look at reorganizing our expectations to facilitate longer-term separation success?
Everyone's had that kind of boss, and everyone can understand why this guy brings me to an unreasonable fit of primal rage. But there is one thing I realized now writing out this script. Again, big spoilers. It turns out Marguerite is still alive from eating the enzyme peepers from within the belly of the Reaper that dragged her off. Hey, post-editing Al here. Just a quick addendum. I was wrong here. She was not eating the peepers. She actually was living in the rib cage of the Reaper while eating its flesh and using its fat as a fuel source. Which is even crazier if you ask me, but I mean, we'll get to that. And she ended up meeting up with Sam. It turns out that they worked together to sabotage the facility to prevent Alterra from getting their hands on the Kara virus. The same virus that led to the death of billions of life forms. Now that said, here's my question. Why would Alterra say that Samantha died of negligence when in reality she sabotaged the facilities? Why didn't Alterra attempt to rebuild? Exactly what happened to the other researchers? Were they just evacuated and that's it? All of this billions of dollars of research just thrown away? That just doesn't seem right to me. You're telling me not one Alterra dispatch with like hazmat suits went to investigate to see if the Kara virus got out? That just doesn't make sense to me. And it didn't for a lot of people who played the game either. The problem with Below Zero isn't because it's woke. It's because there are multiple plot holes in the storyline that don't make much sense. How did Marguerite survive inside a Reaper long enough for Riley to build a base, learn alien technology, synthesize a cure, and inject it into the peepers the Reaper would have to eat for Marguerite to eat in turn? Why was Alterra so negligent of all of these bases of operations on the planet they clearly had a vested interest in? Why was Manuel such a prick? All of these questions remain to be 100% answered, and the answers we are given lead to more questions. Now, with all the negative things I've said about Below Zero thus far, it's not a bad game by any means. I enjoyed the gameplay like it was another Subnautica game. The reason Below Zero received so much flack is because it was given the resources to climb a hill to scale Mount Everest. It had to compare to probably the greatest exploration game ever made, and reach the same height. Easier said than done when you give the development time half the previous one had, and when you have less manpower than your average first-person shooter. I think that if they had simply put more time to expanding the map more and adding in a few more biomes, just to make the map large enough to not have to nerf its speed of the game, Below Zero would have been just as good as the previous game in regards to its gameplay loop. And I'm sure some of you out there are thinking, this is all Krafton's fault. If Krafton didn't rush the development of the game, no, my dear friend. Unknown Worlds rushed themselves. They were not bought out by Krafton until after the release of Below Zero, or at least not until the game had already been fully developed. I think this is an example of Icarus trying to chase the sun. Unknown Worlds struck genuine gold. They became rich off of the brand. So it made sense to ride the hype train before the attention of the game dwindled. That's why they announced it a year after the full release of Subnautica. That's why they wanted to get a game out as fast as they could. It was FOMO, fear of missing out. But instead of missing out on a new fad, they feared they'd miss out on their opportunity of popularity and sink into obscurity, like Halo or Fortnite. And because of that, they rushed themselves. They didn't put the same amount of effort and love as they did in the previous game. And because of that, the overall gameplay suffered for it. I don't want people to leave the video thinking Unknown Worlds are some evil development department that only wants to make money like Bethesda. Simply to maybe bring some understanding to why this game is seen by some or many as a downgrade to the first game. And even though Below Zero is a good game, and I'd recommend at least to try it, this is an example of when the first iteration is so well made that just to follow in its footsteps is difficult, if not impossible. And with that, that's the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching, and if you're okay with some god-awful audio, check out my review on Subnautica. I'm gonna have to remake that video someday. Now get out of my house. Ah!